Yeah, hi. David, so you were just a standard surgeon, and then you decided to go and volunteer in some of the dangerous, most dangerous places in the world. What was your decision-making process? Why did you decide to do that?
Well, yes, I qualified as a consultant surgeon, and I was working at Charing Cross, and this is many years ago now, 1992, 93. And I was watching on the television Sarajevo and the media building it all up, and there was a man who found his daughter underneath a load of rubble, and he took his daughter to a hospital, and she was seriously ill, and there was no doctor there, there was nobody to help her, and she died. And I watched this, and I thought to myself, you know, my heart suddenly just sort of leapt, and I felt something give, and I felt this fire started in my heart. And so I thought, I've got to go and help them. I've just got to go. And I'd only just started my consultant job at Charing Cross. I'd only been there about 6 weeks. And I went to the professor of surgery, and I said, sorry, I know I've just started here, but I've got to go to Sarajevo. And he said, no, you're not. And I said, yes, I am. No, you're not. Yes, I am. And so there was an Australian fellow who was working with us called Eric. And I said, Eric, if I promote you up to my job, will you do my job and I'll give you £2,000? Of course, all right, mate. Yeah. And, and about 3 days later, I was in Sarajevo, and had an amazing, it was just a fantastic experience.
So you weren't riddled with any fear. It sounds like you were really just compelled, that was it, I have to go. That you felt that obligation.
I felt a huge obligation to go. I felt an obligation to use the skills that I'd been taught over the past 10 years to become a consultant. And I felt that, you know, if there wasn't a surgeon there, then I was going to be that surgeon. Yeah, so that was
the way it had to be.
Yeah.
So this isn't just one-off volunteering experience. You've been doing it for 25 years. What was the first time you actually thought, or was there a first time you thought, I can't do this, this is too risky?
It is an extremely risky job. Going into a war zone, you have to be very savvy. You have to really understand the situation that you're in. You have to really be you have to put a different head on your shoulders, and you have to be that head that realizes that it is so dangerous. If you make one mistake, somebody's going to mobile phone, they're going to get kidnapped, you're going to get shot, something's going to happen to you. So you have to be sort of opposite to being brave.
Did you know you could do that before you went?
No. Well, when I went to Sarajevo right at the very beginning, I was a very young consultant, and I was very naive, extremely naive, and took risks that I would never take risks now, because I was very lucky to have got through what happened to me. Mm-hmm. You know, I was in an ambulance being taking a patient from one hospital to another. The ambulance came under fire, the person in front was shot, and it was just an experience that I realised, you know, that this is, you know, I can get killed here.
It's real.
It's very real. And over the years, but the problem was that during these experiences, you do get this euphoric experience of thinking that you've courted death, but you have been able to survive. And it's an experience which gives you, it's like a drug really, and you want more of it and more of it. But you get to a stage really whereby you have to be very careful with what you're doing. And then you have to realise, well, what am I doing here? Am I just doing it for my own satisfaction? Am I doing it for my own pleasure? Am I doing it for this drug that I'm getting? And the answer is no. The answer is you're getting more experiences every time you go to a war zone. You're getting more and more and more experiences of how to deal with very difficult cases that come in. And you then are able to really work out the way to do it. It's completely different to working I've just come from St Mary's this morning, where we were dealing with a case that had loads of blood, I had loads of everything else, and there were loads of people there, so I said, right, I'm going to a talk. And so I left them. But when you're in a war zone, you don't have enough blood, you don't have this. You have the same sort of case that comes in, but you've got to make very difficult decisions, which takes years and years and years of appreciating. And I think I started to realise this about 10 years ago, that I'm somebody now that's been to 15 war zones. I've got a huge amount of experience. I'll just keep doing it until I can get to a stage where I can really start to give back the experiences what I've learned.
So talk to us about that. What is it that you're doing to be able to give back? You've set up a foundation.
I did set up a foundation, and I went to the Royal College of Surgeons, and I said to them, I now have a vast amount of experience in humanitarian surgery, both war zones and catastrophic areas, and I would like to set up a training course to train surgeons. So we called it Surgical Training for the Austere Environment. So surgeons would come, and the Department of International Development gave us a load of money to set the course up, and we ran it 3 times, and all of a sudden nobody came because the course cost so much money, and of course it runs for 5 days, and I was able to distillate, if that's the right word, all the 25 years of training into 42 hours, so I could give the surgeons everything that I had learned all this time to train in a short period of time. But of course nobody came then because it cost so much. And so Ellie, my wife, and I set up this charity which is called the David Nott Foundation, which we now are doing very well, and it allows us to bring surgeons from all over the world to our training course. So we pay for their flights, we pay for their accommodation, we give them all the information, and they're both from war zones, they're from low-income environments, they're from everywhere. We recently, last week, we ran a course about 3 weeks ago. We had lady surgeons from Libya, we had Congolese, we had Cameroonians, we had Egyptians, we had all sorts of people from all over the world, and they apply for a scholarship and they come. And then the course that we've set up, which is again this training course, we have a team now at the foundation, and we've got models, we've got everything else, which we then take to the field. So rather than, if they can't come to us, then we'll give a training course to them.
But how, David, do you train someone, despite the level of their skill, because obviously they're already surgeons, that's not what you're teaching them, how do you teach someone how to go into an environment that is so full of risk that you don't even know about? You did not know in that situation there what was going to happen. How do you give people those skills?
Well, that's a very good question. And of course, what you do is you tell them, the risks that people do take are enormous. And if there are different environments you go to. There are sort of very hot environments where you're on a field hospital on the front line, and you can hear the gunshot wounds around, you can hear people coming in, you can hear the bomb blasts and so on and so forth. And that is a very, very hot environment. And you really need to have somebody who's cool, calm and collected in that sort of situation.
And can you teach that, or is that innate?
That's innate.
Yes.
I think that's innate.
Yeah.
I think that's something that if you make a mistake in those war zones, then time is over.
Yeah.
So what we try and do is the surgeons that we train are from those sort of places, but they're local surgeons, so they know what environment they're working in at the moment. So we bring them across, they go back to there. The other surgeons, like the expat surgeons like me, we would not put them in that environment because that is too dangerous for them. Yes, and so we would train them to work in that. We have links now with Médecins Sans Frontières, International Commission of the Red Cross, so their surgeons work with their organisations at their hospitals, which are away from the